Hello, my name is Alex Stoeber, and today's video is all about the market update for you to know what's going on in the real estate market. We're going to look at national data. We're going to look at hyperlocal data in Santa Barbara. We will talk about different factors that are going on that are influencing these market trends. And a big one is the eviction moratorium that was just lifted and will be lifted at the end of September for California. But before we get into that, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications to know each time I post one of these videos. Let's get into it. First, what we should talk about is this eviction moratorium. Last year in 2020, the CDC and the United States government put into place a moratorium, which means that people cannot be evicted for any reason. If they're not paying rent, they lost their job, they can't be evicted. This was a huge hit to our economy, COVID was, and it meant that people were out of work, couldn't pay rent, and we also didn't want people kind of walking the streets or to see a homeless boom so that people are more crowded around certain areas, and we wanted to stop the spread of coronavirus. The government put a moratorium in place, and that meant that landowners and homeowners were not able to collect rents and weren't able to get any new tenants into those properties. Well, now what we're seeing is that the moratorium is being lifted in California, across the country. The moratorium has actually already been lifted. So we could see more listings coming on the market because of this. If you are selling a home and you have a tenant in it, it can be really hard to sell that home to a potential buyer who thinks that they're coming in and have no way to actually get the tenant out of the property. If they're below rent, they haven't paid rent at all, if they have no intention of paying rent, that can be a real issue when selling a home. Well, now that evictions are enabled, that means that the homeowner is actually able to evict the tenant and sell the property vacant. This has implications for our listing volume and for the future trend of what we're seeing here. This could mean that prices could decrease if our supply increases and our demand doesn't increase as well. So let's look at the data and see what it says about our trends, our listings coming on the market, and also what it looks like for our list to sales price as we continue to see the most unprecedented time in real estate market appreciation. Let's jump into it. First, let's look at the new listings across the United States. New listings is this orange line right here for 2021. And in this trend, you'll see, it really matches the other years. Historically, we've always seen a real big peak in the summer months, and then in the winter months, we see the listing volume go down. Well, to match that, people, because of school timing and just people don't like to move during the holidays, it seems, that's what the data shows, we have historically seen listings come down, and actually we've seen pending sales come down as well because buyer demand is decreasing. People don't want to move during that time. So this trend is to be expected. It is a little bit more dramatic than 2020, where we had a lot to make up here during COVID when everything shut down. And then we saw this launch up here. So it's to be expected that we had more pending volume and more sales activity during that time. Well, now this year, we're seeing a bit of a more in-line decrease of sales activity and pending and new listings. So here's the sales activity, pending sales. It's plateauing a bit, but definitely higher than it was ever before in previous years. Homes sold as well. We have seen that home solds have come up a bit, just like last year. It's pretty much just in line with where we were last year when it comes to homes sold, and that's another indicator of buyer demand. And what I think is pretty interesting is the median days on market. Median days on market has actually started to creep up a bit, and we can look at the age of inventory as well, and that's starting to creep up as well. So median days on market starting to creep up, positive trend, and the age of inventory is also starting to increase as well. Our price drops are plateaued. So whenever we take off 2018 and 2019, you can see that our price drops were increasing pretty heavily. I mean, at the beginning of the year, we were at 2%, and now we are looking at 4.9% of all listings on the market across the United States have had price reductions. The age of the inventory currently, what we're seeing is just like median days on market, we're seeing homes sit for longer. So at the trough of the market cycle this year, we've seen, in June it was like 30 days on market on average. Now we're up to 36. So not a huge tick up, but it is a positive trend, and it is in line with what we've seen in previous years. Months of supply, this is how we determine if it's a buyer's or a seller's market, and weeks of supply is very down. I mean, we're looking at 7 weeks of supply, less than 2 months of supply right now, when our inventory or a month of supply is at 6 or greater, then that's a buyer's market. If it's below 6 months, then that means that it's a seller's market, and this is a deep, deep seller's market. So we are seeing that, but we are seeing trends that could change that at any time. I think it's going to be quite a while before we actually see any drastic changes, especially to a buyer's market. Right now, the sellers have all the power. The average sale to list ratio, though, is down quite a bit. We are going from, over 1, so it's like 102% of list to sales price, and now we're down to 101% list to sales price. You're still getting the prices that sellers are asking for and demanding in this current market, and yet we're also seeing that that trend is normally picking up at the end of the year, and now we are seeing a bit of a slump here. So if this continues to change, then that would mean that our median sales price is also going to be changing, and that would be a signal that our demand is not meeting the amount of supply that's coming on the market, even though it's so low. It's so low. Yeah, super low. So that is the national market right there. And what you can take from that is that we're pretty much in a holding pattern. We're seeing some trends change, right? We're seeing more days on market. We're seeing median sales price changes decreasing. And we are also seeing new listings actually in line with previous years and going down. The question is the buyer demand decreasing faster than the new listings are decreasing? Because if that's the case, then we will continue to see decreasing prices in median sales prices. So let's jump over to some stats regarding, what's going on in the housing market itself. Like, what could be driving the lack of new listings? There are many factors. So let's look at lumber prices real quick. Just take a look at commodities. So our lumber prices, we did come down significantly from the peak here in June. And here in June, we were seeing, or in May was the peak at $1,770 per 1,000 board feet. And then we went down all the way to $454, and now we've actually increased back up to $639. So there is a positive increase in lumber prices there. And our housing starts were trending upward for a while there. Now we are actually seeing them curl back down. People are like, oh, lumber prices are increasing, then we're going to maybe just purchase a home rather than building it. And our mortgage applications were way down from the peak there in January of buyers out there looking for new mortgages. And then we saw it come all the way down about 40%. And we're now seeing an uptick here. So that could mean that we have more buyer demand and demand for mortgages. The next stat that I'd like to look at is our median sales price in Santa Barbara specifically. So in Santa Barbara, we have seen a decline since May of this year. We had our peak here at $2,325,000 was the median price in Santa Barbara County. And now we are down to 1.7 million. This could be driven by the amount of listings that have been on the market. We haven't seen as many luxury, perhaps. There's a really low turnover in a lot of our areas that were normally a huge part of our median sales price. You can see the average sales price is actually way down as well. Homes aren't selling for as much as they were earlier in the year, and we're seeing price discovery now pointing to less valuable. That's just what this trend would say. But there are many factors that go into this. I would just keep an eye on this as we do continue to see the moratorium be lifted, see if homes are coming on the market at a faster rate. We'll be tracking that week over week and month over month. So just tune in, and I'd love to show you those statistics. This is the one that we're going to be tracking closely. We do see an uptick over the last 2 months in new listings. So that tick from last month has continued, and we've continued to see new listings. So as new listings are rising, our median sales price is going to decrease unless we have more buyer demand to actually meet that supply. And then our price changes, we had seen a positive trend here in price changes for a while, and now we're actually seeing it curl downward. And that could mean that homes are just being priced properly the first time, and sellers are listening to their experts and pricing their homes accordingly. And yet that also could mean that we just have so many buyers in the market that are eating up the homes regardless of what their price was. So our monthly closed has spiked up over the last 2 months, and that is right in line with last year, where we started to pick up at the end of the year there, second half, and then our pended is really down. So this is what we're talking about with median sales price here. We have new listings is coming up. We have pended sales is going down. Pended sales is buyer demand. New listings is the supply, and our median sales price is decreasing because of what we're seeing here. And then our month back on market, we are seeing homes actually come back on the market more often now. You'll see here this trend is positive, showing that there are less homes that have a backup position buyer, which means that they just have to put the home back on the market because it was priced really aggressively. They priced it at the top of the market, and the buyer who is in escrow said, hey, you know what? I had to be so aggressive in order to win this. Let me just pull out and wait, is what it looks like. There's more buyer's remorse here. And because of the buyer's remorse, cancellation increases, and there aren't backup offers in place. So the home is put back on the market. This is usually not a great sign for any seller who is putting their home back on the market after only having one buyer in place. I would always recommend getting a backup offer, hopefully a strong one, in order to make sure that this doesn't happen, so that you have just a really streamlined escrow. And then our coming soon, we're seeing this used much more often. Agents are just trying to get homes in front of other people as fast as possible, and they're just taking like a few photos or a set that they may have had in the past, putting it on as quickly as possible just for agents to see, to get people and traction on the home, and then it hits the market, or it doesn't, and it hits with a little bit more momentum this way. When you already have agents looking at it and buyers talking about it, doing pre-market showings, things like that is a good way to market a property and have as much momentum as possible. That is the summary of what's going on with the data itself. What we're going to be talking about over the next 4 weeks until the next market update is just going to be what is going on with the eviction moratorium as it continues to vet out tenants. Are tenants actually being pushed out of homes? How many tenants are actually behind on their rent? And we'll also talk about what this is showing in our new listings coming on the market. We've seen that there's a trend upwards in Santa Barbara. The trend is downwards across the United States. And I am here. My name is Alex Stoeber once again, giving you the market stats and just letting you know where we're going. Thank you so much for tuning in and have a great day.